So if you haven't noticed, for the last couple of years now, Disney has kind of been dipping its toes into the anime industry. A couple of notable pieces that I could see it doing that with is Bleach, Star Wars Visions, and Summertime Rendering. Now those are notable pieces, right? But I wouldn't blame you if you didn't really even know about it. I mean, everyone knew about the Bleach one, but not many people knew about the other two. Okay, that's not true. People know about Star Wars Visions too. But what I'm saying is that there wasn't much coverage of those two big things, and I don't even think people really knew that Summertime Rendering was even on Disney Plus or Hulu or wherever it was, mainly because they were talked about, brought up as things on the news piece, and then eventually kind of just fade into the obscurity that is the anime news. And I am a little bit surprised that more people aren't talking about it. The fact that Disney, this big conglomerate of a business, is dipping its toes into our industry, and I'm surprised that there isn't more discussion on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for this. So you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to do, because in this video, we're going to at least bring up the pros and cons of what it means for Disney to dive in headfirst into the anime industry. Basically, I'm going to list my points with the pros and the cons, and at the end, I'm going to give kind of my thoughts on how I feel if Disney were to just go balls deep into the anime community or the anime industry and try to just, carve itself out a little thing for itself in this world. Because realistically, I do think it's important to talk about it. We have, like I said, this big company coming in, and it could change a lot of things. So today, I'm repeating myself, I'm rambling. Let's go over the points of what I think Disney going into the anime industry could do for us. Now, my philosophy when it comes to dealing with all these type of things is you want to do the bad first and then eventually lead into the good. So we're going to go with the cons first. And with Disney entering itself into the anime community, I think the first big con I see is just it's going to give us another place to watch anime. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Mise, why is that a bad thing, right? More access to anime, more places to watch anime means less piracy and less people, being left out in the anime world that can't watch anime. And at the end of the day, you are right. Anime being added to another streaming service does mean that we'll get more places to watch anime. On the surface level though, but I do think that this could lead to more problems. I mean, think about it already for a second, right? Think about all the places that we can already watch anime, right? You got the big boys, Crunchyroll, and Funimation, and I'm only bringing up Funimation because there's still some dubs that haven't been transported over to Crunchyroll yet. For example, One Piece. So that exists. Netflix not only has license to other anime, but makes its own original anime. You have places like Hulu that's already owned by Disney that has some anime. You have High Dive, who's another anime only platform. I think Verve still makes anime, although I'm not 100% sure with that. There's just a bunch. There's a bunch of streaming services, and that adds up to a lot of money, especially if you're going for a lot of premium packages, since some of us, like myself, are people that other people rely on since we give out our passcodes and stuff like that. Now, it's not that problematic if you already had Disney Plus. I already had Disney Plus when Bleach was getting announced because I got the Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN's Plus bundle because I wanted to watch Disney stuff. I liked Hulu, and I do watch sports. Despite me being an anime fan, I do watch other things other than anime. Not often, but I do. But I can understand the frustration for other people who don't have Disney Plus, who have to sit there and say, if I want to watch a show I really like, I have to buy another streaming service. Like, it gets kind of ridiculous at a point. And I think that frustration with more people getting more streaming services, having to spend more money, at the end of the day, people are just going to end up pirating it. They're just going to go to places like Kiss Anime and other piracy service, and they're just going to take it there. They're not willing to spend the money. And I know some of you people are going to sit there and be like, that's a broke mentality, and that's a mentality that sucks. But listen, man, times are tough, and the economy kind of sucks right now. So I can completely understand not wanting to spend that however fucking much just to buy Disney Plus just to watch one anime. Honestly, at the end of the day, sometimes it's just not worth it. And I do think that even especially now, it's not worth it. Like, you think about what Disney Plus has for anime at the moment, and while they do have some options, it's not much to warrant an anime only fan to just go on and get it for anime. It just doesn't make sense at all. And like, Sure, Disney has other animations, it has other stuff, but if you're not into that stuff and you're not into the live action stuff it has, you're not into the Marvel movies, you're not into anything else, and you're only really there for anime, it's not really worth it for you. It's not worth it for the big anime fans. If you gotta watch other stuff, then you can value it that way, then sure. But if you're getting it just for anime, nah, it's not worth it, fam. The second big one I do want to talk about is more saturation of anime. Now, this is another one I feel like people are gonna look at me at first and be like, Mise, you're kind of crazy for bringing this one up. Don't we want more anime in our life? Isn't that the whole purpose of being an anime fan? Is more anime? And to an extent, yes, I can agree. But again, if you look at things maybe a little deeper, I don't think it's that great, honestly. And I will also preface it that this isn't a super hard con at the end of the day. Like, sure, we'll get more anime, but it's not one of those things at the end of the world. But I do think it's one of those things that we should probably be more wary about. But I know you guys have noticed, we all have noticed, each one of us have noticed, we get way more anime in all the seasons, like way more consistently now. Like, if you took everything, and I mean everything that comes out in anime every single year, I wouldn't be surprised if it reaches to over 100 anime that get released all the time. Sure, we only talk about like a handful of anime that actually truly matter with some special gems at the middle to bottom, but that's still a bunch of shows that are being made for a bunch of us and we can never consume all of it. It's a lot. It's a lot of media that comes out. And like I said, it's not a hard con, but I think it is something to think about when, like, you know, is there a possibility of oversaturation, maybe an overload of sorts of people who look at this and get overwhelmed by the amount of anime that comes out? Like, for some of us, unironically, we may feel burnt out when we see all this anime and we try to catch up. Sure, you don't have to watch everything. No one has to watch everything. But when you see that, you either look at it as you have a plethora of endless anime to consume, or, you know, you just get overwhelmed trying to get everything. And maybe that's just me. This might be just a me thing. I can completely understand that. But for me, I just look at it. I just look at how much anime comes out. Adding another big company that could put out, if we're being honest, double that potentially. It just sits as insane to me, honestly. It, honest to God, gets to a point where you ask yourself, when? Like, when does it stop and when does it become a problem? Because you just ask, what's the point? What's the point of making all these anime if, like, only a handful of people are going to watch it? Now, I will admit, this is also based on a Western experience. I have no clue how the majority of these animes interact in Japan. I could be completely off and just completely ignorant. And if I do, please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. These animes, some of the animes that might not be popular in the West, might be fucking bangers over in the East. Might be bangers in Japan or any other country in the East. I'm not 100% sure and I don't know. But I am talking in more of a Western perspective that a lot of these animes just don't kind of hit. But I also will admit that while we do have some crossroads when it comes to anime that both Japan and America and the West and the East might like, I know that there's also some very vast ones that the East just don't fuck with that the West fucks with, and some that the West fuck with that the East don't fuck with. So take that with what you will. And then the third con I do want to address is a problematic clash of culture. Now, this one is actually a serious con because when you add Disney, a Western company, into Japan's anime industry, which is a, you know, heavily dominated Eastern one, there will tend to be problems. Oh boy, will there tend to be problems. And in this case, I don't really know how Disney even approaches this because let's say Disney wants to give the rights to something like Mappa or Trigger or Madhouse or something like that for one of their own IPs or one of their properties to turn that into anime. And the studio wants to make it more Eastern to, you know, appeal to the Eastern audience that they have. But Disney doesn't want that. Or let's say Disney buys out a studio and they want to make an anime that's more Western, but the studio doesn't want to do that. Each studio wants to do something more Eastern, and that just becomes more problematic. It becomes a battle of ideals at that point. Now, obviously, if we're being completely honest, at the end of the day, money talks. And I'm assuming that if there was any more problems, that you can get both sides to meet an agreement if there was more money in the table. But that is a legit issue that might come up. There's a lot of aspects of anime that are very Eastern that us as Westerners just don't, relate with or compromise with. That's why 4Kids did the thing it did. Although, let's not forget 4Kids also did that very terribly and did not respect the culture of East Asia, the Asian countries, or the whole anime industry is terrible. 4Kids fucked up. Okay, that's a whole other video I can make on its own, but other people have done it better than me. Long story short, 4Kids fucked up. We do not want Disney doing another 4Kids. The only real true way I can really see Disney potentially avoiding a clash of cultures if they wanted to dive in headfirst in anime like this is either two ways. One, they use an IP that they could give to an anime studio that wouldn't have those issues. So something like Star Wars with Star Wars Vision is a perfect example, because all the studios could add their own Eastern spin to it, but because it's Star Wars and while there's nothing really Western about it, it's all, space and whatnot, that works for the most part. They give their own spin on it, which works and makes a beautiful piece. Or you go ahead and Disney makes its own anime studio. And that would be interesting, and I would really want that option, because then we can redress the question of what is anime, which honestly, that is a long time coming. And I think in this era of anime, that's a question that we definitely need to address. If you want to know my opinion, I'm on the same opinion as Mother's Basement. Look at this video. You'll understand what I mean. And now we get to the pro section of this video, and one of the big pros for this is that Crunchyroll finally has a competitor again. Now, I did bring up the fact that with the addition of Disney into the anime industry, that could cause a lot of fucked up shit for consumers, especially in the anime industry. But it also could bring a lot of benefits, and one of those is being able to compete with Crunchyroll when it comes to the making a lot of the anime. I meant dubbing, voice dubs, my bad. Because honestly, I think we can all agree that right now it does feel like Crunchyroll has somewhat of a monopoly when it comes to anime, at least in the West for the most part. It doesn't feel like there's no one around that can really compete with them as much. If Disney were to step in though, not only would it give them a really good competitor, but because of that, they might have to change a lot of the bullshit that they do on a daily basis. A big thing that I can think of in that realm was the voice actor of Mob, who wasn't really there for season 3 because of the union that he was with trying to negotiate a better contract for him, but it fell through, and I don't even think if they found anything for that. I don't know much of the details for that, but I know that whole thing was a big mess. Having someone like Disney and, people who want to make dubs going over to Disney and making better dubs for them could lead Crunchyroll to making better workplaces and workspaces for the people that do their dubs for them. You know what? I do know very much well that is very wishful thinking, because at the end of the day, both of these companies are, kind of doo-doo caca when it comes to handling anything proper work related, at all. Oh, there's so much. There's so many issues. I might admit I might lean more into the con with this one, but I can't rule it out as a really good possibility. And, with capitalism, competition breeds good shit, in theory. Now, one of my personal favorites and something I would really like to see if Disney were to dive in headfirst into the anime industry is seeing a lot of our favorite IPs from Disney being adapted into anime. Because at the end of the day, I don't think the money for Disney really lies in making original anime or adaptating mangas and light novels into anime or even grabbing big names from anime. I think their big money lies in getting their IPs and giving it to anime studios who can turn them into banger-ass masterpieces. Imagine getting an adaptation of Mulan from MAPPA, or Toy Story from Kyoto Annie, or a Marvel Trigger spin-off. The possibilities of what Disney can do with their IP being turned into anime is almost endless. That is literally a money printer waiting to happen. And the fact that it hasn't happened, and it only really happened with Star Wars, is baffling to me. It's shocking that someone at the higher ups, or just someone who works there, could be the CEO, the COO, the janitor, some accountant, who hasn't just gone into the office and looked at them and been like, listen, I have this idea. You could do this, you could bring it to Japan and you can make it a hit. This shit might work, but this shit might make us a lot of money. And with how big and how popular anime has gone in the last couple of years, I wouldn't be surprised if like the demand with that is higher now more than ever. If there was any time for Disney to capitalize on anime adaptations of their own IPs, man, I think now would be the perfect time to do so. And our final pro for this video, and one I don't think many people actually really thought about much, is a mass improvement and mass access to a lot more merch and potential physical media. Now, I get it. Again, this might be another thing you look at me and you say, Mise, we have things like Amazon, and anime is so popular, you can walk into stores like Target and just get anime stuff. So why should this be a pro? We already have access to a lot of anime things. The reason why I say that this is a pro is that a lot of those things that you point out, things that you can get on Amazon or walk into Target or other retail stores like Walmart, those things only apply to like the really super big names in anime. Obviously, things like Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, Demon Slayer, things that have really popped off and taken over, the Western influence, things like My Hero Academia, you can walk into a lot of places and just get the merch. And even things that haven't really popped off that hard yet, but are still extremely popular in the West, like Jujutsu Kaisen or Chainsaw Man, a lot of places like Amazon are going to have merch for those things. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. But what about those anime that are still pretty popular, but for the most part, you still don't get or find that much about them? Like, sure, for example, a really good one, again, this is just another personal one for me, but I still find it extremely hard to find that much Full Metal Alchemist merch anywhere. Now, admittedly, maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, and Amazon and other online retailers still have some stuff, but even when I look around, not many places are going to have it. Not many places are going to hold a lot of things for it. If Disney were to buy the rights or buy whatever legal paperwork you gotta do or whatever money you gotta throw at someone to buy the rights of just some of these like still popular but hard to find merch like anime, that would be truly amazing. They'd be able to sell it anywhere. They'd be able to sell it all over the place, all over the globe. You could mass produce those stuff like extremely well, and for the most part, Disney products, I haven't had a real problem with it. Anything made by Disney, 9 out of 10 times, is going to be of a pretty good quality for the most part. I think you get the rare exceptions where things might be a little lunky and a little weird, but for the most part, Disney stuff is pretty high quality. Now, yes, I will agree merch is one thing, but physical media, stuff like DVDs and Blu-rays and all that stuff, that might be a lucrative place for Disney to go into. Sure, right, we have streaming services. We have places where we can watch it where we don't need to own physical copies. I get it, that's just the day and age. But there still are a lot of people and a lot of places that still want to own the physical media of things. That still want to own a copy or a box set of whatever anime they have. Disney could get into that market. Now, I know that one might be a little bit more difficult because of the popularity of physical media, and I think there might be some stuff for Funimation that Crunchyroll now owns with the whole distribution for that. But again, it's Disney. They have the money to figure it out if they really wanted to. And if they wanted to make a really big play for that, that might be something that would be quite interesting for a lot of us. Not even just for us, but other places that just may find it harder to gain more access to anime. Having a physical copy of that might actually be a lot more easier for other places to do. And Disney being able to do that might be able to distribute that far wider than someone like Funimation might be able to do. So now we get to the point of the video where I kind of express where do I think Disney would stand. Would it be good or would it be bad for them to enter the anime industry? If I am being completely honest with you, I do think that given everything that I've mentioned today and a lot of things that I may not have mentioned, I do think Disney entering the anime industry would be a good thing. I don't think we can deny that Disney has the money and resources to actually put itself into the anime industry. But that's not the part that impresses me. It impresses me more the amount of avenues they can go down that wouldn't fuck them up so bad. Because each avenue either puts them on the front stage and probably one of the biggest aspects in the anime industry, or it at the very least lets them carve their own corner where they can thrive off it. It'd be able to play by the rules that the anime industry has set for itself, but at the same time, it'd be able to potentially push boundaries in a lot more ways than one. And I think that if it applies itself, Disney could really make a big impact. If it applies itself. I am talking more from the aspect of fantasy, but if Disney were to apply its full force and full might, it could make a really big impact. But as it stands right now, it just tiptoeing into the anime industry and trying whatever, I feel like is doing more harm than good, actually. Because at this moment in time, all Disney is really doing is reaching out to anime studios and just picking up IPs that they're already working on for exclusive contracts, which is fine. That's how the industry works. But the fact that we have to get a whole new service, potentially 2 new services with Disney Plus and Hulu being streamed on, it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks that we have to have all these services in order to just watch 1 or 2 more anime. And it's not pushing anything else for us to really benefit from it or to any of the other things that I just said. So right now, it's being more of a detriment, I feel. I doubt any Disney CEO will ever I doubt anybody super high in Disney would ever see this, but if you want to make a true impact, I think making big plays in the anime industry could lead you a lot more farther than just picking up a bunch of animes that studios are already making up for exclusive contracts. Sure, it gets you people watching for 1 or 2, but they might just cancel it after they're done with the anime, or they might just password share, or they might just pirate it. There's a lot of things that don't really benefit from you just getting exclusive contracts, but there's a lot more upside from you really putting your own mind into it. So I do hope within the next couple of years we see Disney make some big plays, because if not, it's just kind of a waste of potential, honestly. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching my video. Again, I needed to make a new video, and I've been back and forth on what I wanted to do, so I just sat down and I just made a video. We'll see how this does. I don't fucking know. You don't fucking know. No one fucking knows. All I know is I appreciate you viewing, and I hope that you subscribe and comment down below what you think Disney will do in the anime community. Do you think it's bad? Do you think it's good? Do you not care? Tell me if you don't care. I don't care. Just comment. But I do appreciate you watching, and I will see you guys within the next video. Peace.